What are you excited
Mhm.
about in this crazy market we have right now? I mean, banks are failing. Chat GBT is trying to, take over the internet. Up is down,
Yeah,
down is up. And, you've been in the
yeah.
industry for a long time. What are you focusing on now, right? With everything,
You're not going to like my answer. I'm
please.
focusing on Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Look, I got to tell you, I didn't get it. I've been hearing for 18 months now that AI is going to take over
Yeah.
and that AI is going to be replacing jobs and better get with the program. And
Yep.
I just ignored it. And then a friend of mine introduced me to Chat GPT in a way that I didn't realize. I was actually listening to something that AI had created, and I
Wow.
was like, "What?"
What's up, entrepreneurs? This is your host, Skylar Schisler of the show, The Entrepreneur Theory. And today I have a guest, somebody who really shaped me, who I am in my network marketing career, but also as a leader in business. And when I asked this gentleman to come on today, I was very humbled that he accepted my invitation. He literally could be anywhere in the world, and I know a lot of people might say that, but literally, this man has built businesses in 14 different countries. He's built businesses of sales reps, about 250,000 plus people, and he's been a trainer on stage and in front of crowds as big as 20,000 people. I mean, I'm very humbled to have him, and just to think that he wants to have a conversation with me, but more importantly, the information he's going to give you not only changed my life, but I know that it's changed thousands of other people's lives. And he's the founder of Badass Global, and he has multiple other businesses. Um, but his raw and real approach to business and life is something that I've attached to about 8+ years ago when I first met him. So, without further ado, Mr. Martin Ruof, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Scholar. I appreciate it. It's great to be here, and
Yeah,
truly, man, I'm honored that you asked. So I'm excited.
thank you. I want to start out where I first met you. You came to Denver,
Mhm.
Colorado, and you were doing some sales training.
Yeah.
And I had just hit a promotion or a rank, if I remember right. And I got to pick you up from the air. Actually, I got to take you to the airport, but I first met you at a meeting. And my first interaction with you was after the meeting, I was answering some questions. And you walked up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, the top tier of the company just walked up. I hope I'm giving the right information. And I kind of looked at you and you're like, you got it, man. This is good. Like, this is good. Great job. And that was the first time that somebody at the rank in that company, somebody with your stature within business had said, hey, you don't need to look to me. You got it. And I really appreciate that. You empowered me that day. And then after you gave us a training, we had rented out a whole entire conference room and thousands of people had showed up and you'd given a massive training. um, I drove you to the airport and I remember you were booking a flight. I think it was like Dubai, United Emirates or something, and you had gotten a really nice seat and they'd messed up something with the booking. And the way that you were able to articulate what you wanted without being a jerk was mind blowing. That was the first time that I realized that your words really have power and you don't have to be mean about it. You were able to get what you
Mm.
wanted, and the person on the end was advocating for you. And I absolutely loved that. So that's where I want to start. What makes Martin Ruoff Martin Ruoff?
Wow. Go right for the jugular, why don't you?
Let's
Fine,
go.
okay.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. It's a great question, and I can tell you that I'm a work in progress. I'm seeking to find that answer every day and to fulfill that answer every day. Um, I can say that, and I fail a lot, and I do my best to be conscious of the decisions that I'm making. So, to go back to that story that you just shared, I don't see any, I never saw any difference between myself and anyone else. I never looked at myself, in building a business, and I still don't look at myself as, oh, I'm here, I'm at the top of the company and you're not. I don't like, just, it's not even a thought. And more than likely I walked up to hear, to hear what you were saying, and got, I received value from that. And everyone has something to share, everyone has something to contribute. What I'm contributing is not necessarily any greater or less than what you or anyone else is contributing in that moment. And so i it's funny, I've been called, people will introduce me and they'll say he's so humble, and I'm like, well, I don't think of myself as humble. Because I don't think that's humble.
Yeah.
I think of myself as, this, we're all on this process together, we're all on the journey together. And I may have information that you don't have, and you definitely have information that I don't have, and let's all work together to support one another to be the best we can be and to create the best life we can be. And I
Yeah.
don't really mean for this to sound hokey or like I'm running up and I'm hugging trees and all that. It's not, I don't mean it to sound that way.
Yeah.
And I assure you, I say this from a place of being very grounded in that I'm aware of my strengths and I'm aware of my areas for improvement,
Yeah.
and I do my best to stay attached to that every day. So if you ask me what makes me me, um, that's a big part of it. And knowing that I have a job to do every day, and I have people to that I care for every day, and the people that look up to me, and I'm specifically speaking about my family.
Yeah.
And certainly there are business partners, and there are business associates, and there are customers and clients, and a lot of people looking to me to be the best version of me, and none of them are saying that to my face, but that's certainly what we all either expect or anticipate or desire from one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and definitely in business. And so that's what I woke up today, uh, consciously focusing on clearing out the clutter of my mind and emotions and all the other stuff to just be present and be the best version of myself. So hopefully that answers your question well
Absolutely.
enough.
I think so many people can take away the present mind from what you just said. There's so much going on in our lives, and a lot of times what happens is our tasks are only getting 50% of what we can bring to the table, because we are allowing our subconscious mind to just rattle around in there about bills we got to pay, and like you said, emotions, detaching from the emotions for a few minutes. All of us have problems, all of us have things going on in our lives where those emotions might make you create some more issues if you allow them to dictate your decisions. and
Absolutely.
and I love that you said that. And you, when I met you the first time, what you'd said is, I don't view myself to be better than any person, and everybody has information. You do embody that, though. It does rub off that you are open and able to receive, um, in in a very in a very confident way. And that is something that I attach to. And I know that, when you came to that market, for the record, like, you didn't make a dime off of anything that you were doing in our market, but you came because you cared, because you saw other entrepreneurs wanting to win. And because you came in and then you gave 100% to people that weren't even benefiting your own organization, that just says so much about your character. And when I was growing up in that company, in my network marketing journey, I was sitting there going like, okay, well, these are the people I want to be like. But here's the thing. I can't be you, right? I can't be you. But I can pick up
Right.
some things along the way. What is let's talk about imposter syndrome when it starts. All of us had humble beginnings, right? And so whether or not you believe you could do something, right? That's something that a lot of people battle with. How do you
Sure.
get to the point where you have that cool confidence and that humble mentality, but yet you're a badass and you can still get stuff done?
Another great question. I think that I learned, of course, the model of fake it till you make it. I've heard that for a long period of my life. And when I met someone that helped me deconstruct what that phrase really means. And fake it till you make it, it's not necessarily put on the nice fake watch and the accoutrements to look or appear a certain way. Instead, it's actually an inward process of believe in yourself, even though the outer appearance may not reflect what could be said about you or what you want your reality to actually be.
Mhm.
And it's also, I was taught that allow, let us believe in you while you're learning to believe in yourself. And and I think that being rooted in that has helped me uh help me just surrender this idea that I'm not good enough and that I don't belong in the room, and what I have to say doesn't have value, and all the garbage that our minds can tell us, or my mind would tell me. And if I'm not current with my practice, and really, I want to say the word vigilant with my thoughts, I'll go to that negative place. And unfortunately, or whatever, it just is. It's not fortunate or unfortunate, it just is what it is that oftentimes my default mode is to the negative. My default
Mm.
mode is, oh, I'm not good enough. My default mode is, oh, my words don't have value. And none of that is true. It's just, for whatever reason, that will oftentimes be my default mode. So what am I doing today to 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 not let that be my default mode, so that instead my default mode is, um, I am worthy, and I can contribute, and what I do have to contribute is of value.
Mhm.
And I set an intention before every time I speak, before every time I'm walking to a meeting. I set a very clear intention to get out of the way and to be, and this isn't a question of not, it doesn't matter to me what anyone's faith is. I'm just sharing what mine personally
Yeah.
is that I set an intention for me to just to get out of the way and be an instrument for God to
Yeah.
use, to be of service to others in the highest possible way. And it's not my job to judge what that is. It's my job to be a clean vessel for use,
Mm.
period. And that is what has helped me, um, again, truly be of value in a moment for someone else. It's not whether I rarely would ever walk off stage, and to this day I rarely walk off stage or walk out of a meeting like, yo, I killed that. uh-uh. No. Most of the time I don't even really recall what I said.
Yeah.
And I walk off. If anything, I walk off like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Oh geez, oh boy.
And then
And
a couple days later, you get a
my wife or
Facebook
somebody will
message.
slap me.
A couple days later,
Yeah.
that was the best talk I ever heard.
Yeah, I remember I did a talk and there was 18,000 people in the room, and I literally was like, I wound up sitting down on the stage because, sitting on the steps of the stage, and it's in this big arena, circular arena, and I just, fortunately there were cameras shooting everywhere so they could, everybody had a face view of me. Uh, but I remember that particular talk being very transparent with my process in that moment. And I remember walking off stage going, I don't believe I just did this. Oh my, I was like mortified. And Jessie, my wife, came running up to me and she's like, oh my God, that was unbelievable. And I'm like, no, 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 no. She's like, you need to stop right now. That was extraordinary. And just like you said, I picked up my phone and it was like, I had floods
Oh
of
man.
text messages coming through and people running backstage. So yeah, it's interesting. It really is.
If I
So
had to
anyway,
guess, I would say it's probably the talk when you were talking about how you were the top rank in the company and you still felt like quitting. Was
yep,
that the talk?
that's the talk. That was
It
the
it
one.
even that hit hard because when we were coming up the ranks, it was raw and real. I'm getting goosebumps. I might even get a little emotional because even though you can climb the ranks in a company, even though you can hit your dreams and your goals, that negative aspect of your life can still hit, like you said. And you have to really
Yeah,
watch out for it. It will nip you in the butt so fast. It'll take you off your game. It'll actually make you sabotage what you've already created. And I've fallen
absolutely.
victim to myself so many times where if I wouldn't have self sabotaged, gosh, maybe we'd be a little further. But you also can't think like that either, right? You have to understand that it's a process and it's a refinement,
Right,
which goes into
right.
your second favorite talk that I ever heard, which is the Statue of David, which is the refinement
Mm,
process. See,
mm-hmm,
something that
mm-hmm, correct.
if people haven't heard you speak before, one of the things that I would say from an outsider looking in that you do very well is you take something that most people take for granted and you break it down and you show how much value and how much work and how much meaning went into something as simple as the Statue of David. Most of us just take a picture and go, "Oh, that's a cool artifact," right? But you're sitting here going, "No, if you knew the story of what it took to make that, you would appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
you would marvel in it."
Right,
You
right.
know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that if you're asking about the Statue of David by Michelangelo, I I remember being in Florence, Italy, and for an event, a speaking event, and I think it was the day before I was supposed to give. Yeah, it was the day before I was giving that talk. I didn't know I was going to be talking about the Statue of David. I just went to see I went to see the Statue of David because our friend Mark Aceta told me if there's anything you do in Florence, you have to see the Statue of David. So anyway, so we go, and it was just beyond. It was beyond inspiring. It was beyond jaw dropping. It is to this day the greatest work of art I've ever seen in my life. It's astonishing that someone could a human being created that out of a massive slab of wretched looking marble that was deteriorating in the back of a church hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And the thing that struck me was the craftsmanship and certainly the artistry, but the time that it took to create a moment that the statue represents. It's that moment that Michelangelo created with David where he's looking at the giant and he's in that moment he decided to kill Goliath. And he caught that moment and everything that embodies the decision that David is making in that moment is in a statue. It's ridiculous. And what I took from that and used as an analogy for business, but it's also it's the craftsmanship of one's self. It's the craftsmanship of any endeavor. It takes time, and what is required is the shedding away of all that really is not the best version of you. It's not you. It's not your vision, and uh, there's so much work that I used to do to try to be someone. you talked about for yourself, Skylar. You said, you know, it's not about trying to be someone else. It's just you just want to be yourself. That's not the easiest thing in the world. And I'll rephrase. It actually is pretty simple. So in practice, it actually is very
Right.
simple. It's just not the most comfortable, and it can be scary because we look at social media and we look at other people and we look at a magazine. Well, I'm supposed to be that, or I'm supposed to be this, or I'm supposed to drive that, or this makes me worthy. This, all these other
Mm-hmm.
things that other people have. And the simple fact is, we're good enough exactly as we are.
Yes.
And so I think that the craftsmanship of self, the refinement of self, is about letting go of everything that isn't truly you, and just and in that process we become better, we become greater, we become the vision that we actually do see for ourselves. And it takes time. And that's the key, is to give it the time that it takes and still work every single day and show up, and not necessarily not judge the process, but
Mm-hmm.
just show up and do the work and trust and have faith that that the vision will unfold. And very likely it will be a greater the what unfolds becomes greater than what your vision actually is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it takes time. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. It wasn't built in a day. What they say? They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but they laid a brick every hour. So
Wow.
do the work every
Do
day.
the
Do the
work.
work. Do the 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 work. So
And I remember you sharing two sides of that story as well. So the refinement, so the statue itself is a marvel, but then the story of creating the actual statue, the ridicule, and the lifetime
yep.
it took to create that. Right, it took a lifetime, if I remember right, when you were talking about that, to sculpt that, and the amount of ridicule that Michelangelo actually suffered. They thought he was insane for spending so much time on one piece of rock. Wasn't it something along the lines?
Yes, it was. It took him, I believe it was 4.5 years, 3.5 to 4.5 years,
Oh, okay.
to create this. And it took him, he literally worked every single day. He
Wow.
he created Michelangelo, set up a tent and lived behind the church. He actually built a tent around the block of marble, and began to and that's where he worked on it. And one of the reasons he did is because, one, it was to protect it from the elements, the rain and the snow and whatnot. But the other was to protect it from the eyes of others. And he didn't want their ridicule. He didn't need their judgment. He didn't their their interpretation, their story, their words were not his vision. And so one of the things that I've talked about with in regards to that is, we have to covet, we have to protect our vision. We don't share your vision with everyone, right? Keep the vision close.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the vision close, until it becomes uh, sure enough and solid enough, that enough people will begin to see it and support it. And then that what is it, that social proof kicks in. And then eventually the masses go, oh my god, it's amazing. but
Yeah.
but not to go down that track, but yes, he had to protect his vision. And also he did it practically. There were practical reasons, because he wanted to work on it 24/7. And so he slept there, he ate there, he basically didn't even leave that enclosure, basically,
Right.
for 3.5 plus years. And once he unveiled it, people were astonished. And it weighed, and I forget, I have to look it up, but it weighs, I mean, many tons.
Mm.
It's 17 feet tall. And it took a lot of people, I believe it was 2 or 3 days, to move the statue from the church to to where it to its resting place. And I mean, so yeah. Anyway, it just yeah, it's incredible
Well,
story.
so, but he's now, the art that he's created is world renowned. People, thousands, I think it's thousands of years later, I mean, know his name. And, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us in business, we kind of have a lot of the same journey where we have to kind of seclude ourselves, get in the
Yeah.
shop or get in the tent, whatever you want to call it, and go to work. And we have to craft,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be a lonely place sometimes. The other thing too is a lot of people aren't going to understand your journey because your desires in your heart are meant for you, and they're not going to understand. That doesn't mean you're crazy. That doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It just means that they're not designed to go where you're going, and that's completely fine. But something that I want to talk about is it was a season of his life. And I want to talk
Right.
about, some seasons in your life. I know that, the story that I know of you getting into network marketing is, goes from, I believe, waiting tables to now, you're international, businessman. That journey is a long journey and there's a lot that happened, but there was a season in there. Can you explain what some of your seasons have looked like, where you had to get in the tent and kind of pull back and go to work?
Yeah. You know, the again, you have great questions. It's great
Thank you.
interviewer. So, um, and I would say that there's been many seasons, and I think that the seasons in our lives that we dedicate, meaning a season is a period of time that we dedicate to accomplishing an endeavor, a goal, and achieving an outcome. And those seasons, some are longer than others, some are more arduous than others, some are more fun than others. um,
Yeah.
it just depends on what the outcome is, or pardon me, what the intention and the goal is. And I got into network marketing because I was sick and tired of living the life that I was living, and I was looking for a better lifestyle. I had no idea that I would experience all that I have experienced. I had no idea I would have the success that I've had. And so my first season, if you will, was one in which I was incredibly naive to the industry, and I don't say that in a negative way. I just was naive. I had I was a blank canvas. So I could be, I took in a tremendous amount of information, and everything I was doing was for the most part really fun and exciting. And I began to earn more money than I had ever earned before in the span of a year, much more. And that led to another season, and that led to, um, you know, working even harder, being even more excited, being more conscious and more aware of the business itself. But some of the some of the some of the marked seasons, were, as you've mentioned earlier in our discussion, periods of significant self-sabotage.
Mm.
And um and interestingly, I spent a season of my life sabotaging myself, not even realizing that's what I was doing. That was not my goal. That was not a conscious goal, but it was clearly a goal on some level. um,
Yeah.
but then also, coming out of that, there's been seasons where I was very focused on earning $1 million a year minimum in the business. And that was a season of conscious, focused effort, and frankly sacrificing being around my wife, sacrificing being at home. I remember I was traveling 33 weeks out of a year.
Mm.
uh, do that with a marriage, that's and my wife would come with me sometimes, but most of the time
Yeah.
she didn't. And so I don't know. It's the seasons are what they are. And I honestly, I look now at seasons as, it's just, I'm in a season right now, and the seasons aren't good, they aren't bad, they just are what they are. Right now, I live in Minnesota. It's winter. The winter is waning. We are moving towards spring. Please come faster. We are
Right.
moving towards spring, but it just I don't judge winter any more than I judge spring. There's benefits to winter. I love the snow. I love the snow. I love watching Banks, our 3-year-old, play in the snow and shovel the snow, and it's just awesome. I love how when the snow falls, it dampens the sound, so
Yeah.
there's very little echoing. Things are muted. I
Hmm.
love how snow looks at night. It's romantic. Certainly I don't like -10-degree weather. It doesn't feel the best, but hey, it is what it is, so I accept it. I love summer. There, you know what I'm saying? So there's things that I love, or things I enjoy, and things I enjoy less about each season, and that's just the way it is with our life,
Hmm.
with my life at least, and I won't speak for anyone else. But I do believe that for me, it's part of the process is just accepting the season, and accepting the challenges and the negatives and the positives, the good and the
Yeah.
bad, whatever, the yin and the yang
Hmm.
of each season. But I will say, if you want something in your life, if you have a big goal, one definitely has to focus their attention on achieving that outcome, and let go of all that ultimately is a distraction to achieving that outcome. That is a very specific season that many people will go through at many points in their lives, but certainly
Hmm.
to achieve something significant. Absolutely. And there is, you hear the term, it's the sacrifice model. Well, what are you sacrificing? Maybe you're sacrificing spending time with people. Maybe you're sacrificing, drinking alcohol. Maybe you're sacrificing, uh, working, going to the gym. I don't know. It depends
Yeah.
on the individual, but there is a give and take to everything.
Yeah.
And the season depends on the type of season one goes through, depends on the desired outcome, and the willingness to sacrifice or to let go of that which doesn't serve the outcome.
Right.
So here we are.
There's so much in there that we could drill down on too. I mean, he, one of the things that really bothers me with social media gurus right now, and what I mean by a guru is somebody who seems to know an industry very well, and they're going to give you information to make a certain amount of money or hit goals or whatever, but they're not really doing it. They just know the concept well. And then there's people that are actually doing it. The gurus will tell you, well, you got to have balance in your life. And then there's the people that are actually doing it is like, what's balance? Right. I mean, there's seasons. It's you're going to go as hard as you can for
Yeah.
6 months. You're going to achieve a goal. And then guess what? Now that you've done that, you can go travel for a bit, or, you can take your foot off the gas pedal a bit, and you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. But in those
Mhm.
seasons, something that I just heard you say was you've learned to enjoy the journey along the way. You marveled in the sound deadening of the snow falling, or how romantic the snow is when it falls.
Mhm.
When I hear you say those
Mhm.
things, that's stopping and smelling the roses. You're in the
Mhm.
winter. There are cold aspects, and it is not fun sometimes. But
Mhm.
there's some beauty in there, and once you learn to enjoy the journey, that sacrifice or that imbalance starts to not hurt so bad. And
Right.
so let's say, for instance, you've got a brand new person that you're working with. They want to do what you've done. How can we help somebody who's working a normal job, and then they take a product, or they take a system like what you've created over the years, and how can they get into a little bit of a season of a grind, and change their circumstances?
Well, I think there's a practical response to that question, and I think there is, meaning any business that's successful has a system. And so someone that is working, working 9 to 5 or whatever, working a job
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even two jobs or more, um, first of all, everything comes down to a decision to achieve an outcome. Someone must decide to to win. Someone must decide to achieve the goal. Someone must decide to get started and then begin to work whatever the system is of that company, of that service that's offering a service or a product. So it's interesting because on the practical level, there's a system. Follow the system: invite, present, enroll, train, promote. That's typically
Yeah.
the basic system to any network marketing company, basically.
Yeah.
How each company does the inviting and the presenting and the enrolling and all that crap, that's semantics. um but but underneath that system, which is on the surface and needs to stay on the surface, underneath that, what drives the individual to utilize that system, well, that's the real work. That's the real task. Because some people are afraid to pick up the phone, and picking up the phone, or that's inviting. But if you're afraid to pick up the phone and do it, and you don't invite, well, then you're not using the system. Is the
Right.
system broken, or is the person is the
Right.
person's belief? So it's like, I just think that again, if we're talking about network marketing, it exists on success exists on two planes. One, the practical, and then the one below the surface, and that is it's the emotional. It's really it's the mental. It's not so much the emotional, because our emotions, to a degree, don't shouldn't be a factor
Mm-hmm.
in building a business and following a system. Our mindset is everything, and our mindset determines our emotions, and the emotions trigger the actions, and it works kind of in that sort of that loop.
Yeah.
Um, but I just think that first and foremost, someone has to to decide to get started, decide what they want as in a goal, as an outcome, and then decide what they're willing to do to go get it, to achieve it. And then every day, and sometimes every hour, and sometimes multiple times an hour, make a decision to pick up the phone and move forward, and just do what it takes to win that moment, to make that phone call, to show up and to ask the questions, or to follow the script. And I think that's one of the reasons why systems are so important, is because it gets the person away from themselves,
Mm.
or out of themselves,
Yeah.
and just allow someone to just read the script. Can you just
Yeah.
read the script?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's all you got to do,
Right.
because the right people are looking for you. The right people are looking for the opportunity that you are showing them or inviting them to see.
Yeah.
And, and so anyway, I think that's when it comes right down to it. I think that's really what's involved. And,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so.
And when you'd said, well, if we're talking about network marketing as a whole, I really think that everything that you just said, I've started multiple businesses on multiple different fronts, and really the process is the same on all of them, and everything you
Mm-hmm.
said is
You're
100%.
right.
But the thing is
You're
most
right.
people, they think it's different because they don't have in the beginning, you may not have a mentor that's going to tell you every step, so you have to create those steps if you're going to start it on your own. So that's why, a
Right.
lot of, like, if you were to go get an SBA loan right now, they would say, what's your business plan? They want to know the system for your success. They're not going to give you
Right.
$1 million and a loan to go buy a building, if you don't have a plan on how you're going to recoup that money, right? They're just not
Right.
going to. So what
Mm-hmm.
Martin just said is 100% true. The system is everything. That's what's made McDonald's the name it is. That's what made, Walmart the name it is. All these big brands are systems, and they just do it over and over. And sometimes they do it so fast, they do it in thousands of times in an hour. And that's why they mass so
Right.
much wealth. Well, we all have the same ability. We just haven't locked down the system. That's all it is.
Right.
You know,
Right.
um,
I
go ahead.
can I share one thing on that? Again, the system is on one level, and then beneath that system is the energy driving it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah.
energy. When I say decision and belief, it's energy.
Yeah.
Belief is an energy. Your
Right.
mindset is an energy, and it's energy that drives everything.
100%.
So if I'm inviting you, or if I'm talking to you and I'm saying to you, hey man, look, Skylar, this remote, this is the best remote in the world. I'm telling you, this remote, you have to get this remote. It's going to change your life. Okay, well, there's one energy, right? Or if I'm like, Skylar, listen to me, dude. This freaking remote is badass. This changed my life. I am telling you, you have to freaking see this remote.
Yeah.
Totally different energy. So the energy that drives us in using the system, that's the real deal. And that's the thing. That's why personal development in network marketing is so important.
Yeah.
That's why personal development in business is so important, because people may be attracted to the product. People may be attracted to the company that makes the product. But if they're not attracted to you, or if they are repelled by you, they won't buy this from you.
Right.
And you got to work on you first. Jim Rohn says, work harder on yourself than you do on your business, and you'll become unusually successful. Well, that's the thing, is that most people don't work on themselves. Most people don't read 10 pages of a good personal development book every single day. Most people aren't listening. Most people are listening to negative music, or music with the negative message in it that has a great beat, but it's a negative message. And instead of listening to something, that is feeding their soul and feeding their mind, to become the best version of themselves. So anyway,
Well, so now we go into the personal development space. You know what kept me from doing personal development, especially when I started to get into network marketing and actually had to, lead teams and work with people on a large scale, was I was afraid of the scary monsters in my closet. And I realized that I actually had to go into the closet with a baseball bat and beat those suckers up. I had to bring them out of there and say, you're not going to hold any space in here anymore. I have to deal with you.
Right.
And it was the first time in my life where I actually faced my fears, because whatever you're keeping in your closet is the fear. That's what it is. And you're giving it more energy. And how can you give energy to people? How can you give people your best when in the back of your mind, you're always afraid of that thing that you're hiding? And so it was the first time in my life where I had to be real with people, because it was going to come out sooner or later. When you start to get people in your life, they're going to find out something's wrong. And so I decided, you know what, instead of letting everybody find out, I'm just going to bring it out and I'm going to deal with it. And that allowed me to have more confidence in myself and grow, because I'm not afraid of that monster. In my personal development journey that I want to share was I was a complete jerk to my wife and to most people. My background was in construction, and if you've ever been on a construction site, it's all about making fun of each other. It's all about who's the top dog, and a lot of cussing. And I brought that home, and I treated my wife like one of the guys and one of my employees. And that's not good for a marriage. Matter of fact, she was ready to leave me, and network marketing actually saved our marriage. So put all the money aside, put all the travel to the side. I'm most thankful for network marketing because it exposed how horrible of a person I could be. And nobody's going to follow me if my wife can't even follow me. And
Right.
there's so many mentors that I had followed that said, look, if you can't get your house in order, nobody else is going to get in order. And I believe that's also a biblical principle. I don't know what exactly
I
what
believe you're right.
scripture it is, but yeah, you need to have
Mm-hmm.
your house in
Mm-hmm.
order. And I just remember, remember old David Townsend, right? I just remember him working
Sure.
with me, and I'll never forget my first personal development book that I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And man, that
Mm-hmm.
exposed so much of
Yeah.
how much of a narcissist I was. And
Oh, wow.
it was a
Yeah.
very tough place to be in life, but we've evolved and we've worked past it. Do I still have those tendencies? Absolutely. Do I have to work on them every day? 100%. You know?
Sure. 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 Well, they say what you choose not to look at in your life rules your life. And,
Never heard that. Wow.
yeah, what you choose not to look at in your life rules your life. And I take my hat off to you for doing the inner work and for
Thank you.
going into the closet and looking at the demons and dealing with your demons. You got to deal with your demons or they will deal with you.
Yeah.
So it's like choose,
And they like to show
and
up
that's I agree that
and they show up in the worst time.
no, no, they show up at the best time
Yeah.
for them.
Yes. Yes.
For
They
them,
do.
they're like, "This is awesome. This
Oh,
is great."
you're
Yeah,
in
they
front
want to
of
love to wreak havoc.
yeah, you're in front of 30 people right now and you want to have a narcissistic crazy moment where you just blow up on everybody. Sure, that's great. Yeah, yeah, that's great for business.
Right?
A lot
Yeah,
of
because
apology.
ultimately the demon. Yeah, because ultimately the demons are there to destroy your life
Yeah.
because they thrive on your destruction.
Yeah.
And and that's why I say, if I wake up every day 4:30 5 between 4:30 and 5 a.m. and I sit my tail down and I meditate, I pray, I write, I clear out the muck of my mind,
Yeah.
and I get centered on the truth, and I get centered in you know the truth, and that helps me tremendously. Not engage in narcissistic tendencies and behaviors, and helps me place my attention on someone else and add value to others.
Yeah.
And we've got to take care of ourselves in order to take care of others. It's the age old analogy of flying on a plane, and the mask drops down, and you put your mask on before you put on someone else's. If you pass out trying to put your mask on your child, you ain't gonna be there. Like, you're done. You're not going to be able to help your child.
Yeah.
Put your mask on first, then put theirs on.
Yes.
That's the way it goes. I think, so many people are terrified of going into the closet and, inside and looking at themselves and dealing with themselves. It is scary.
Oh,
It is
100%.
uncomfortable. But you know what's worse? Not living the life you're meant to live,
Mm.
not being the best, not being the person you're truly meant to
Yeah.
be. Because you will one day you will come face to face with that reality.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
No one escapes it. And that, my friend, that's pain.
Oh
That's
man.
painful. Knowing that you're not doing your best, knowing that you're selling out, knowing that that it's knowing that you're hurting others and you're not showing up the way other people really need you to. You're not living to your potential. That's also, we could say, like, hitting that bottom, if you will. That's also a blessed day,
It sure is.
because hopefully that's the moment that we realize, okay, we become not we become willing to let go.
Yeah.
and we become willing to do whatever it takes to change and to be the best versions of ourselves, and and or at least to work on it. They say that for an addict, the greatest day for an addict is when they hit their bottom, and that it's horrible for them on one level, and it's horrible for the people around them on one level, but it's the day they wake up, because they become willing to do whatever it takes to get free of that addiction.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I have friends who are addicts, and I've prayed for other people to hit their bottom, and it sucks on one level, but on another it's like they got to do it. So everybody hits a bottom of in some capacity.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be an addiction, but they hit a bottom and they just go, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I just can't live like this anymore.
Right.
So anyway,
But that rise up from the ashes is where people will write stories about you. That's where your credibility comes in. That's where, when you start to do the work, that's when people start
yeah,
getting behind you, because you start to become attractive and you start attracting the right people,
right,
because now you've shed off all
right,
of the bad, because there's no more,
right,
you can't go down any further. You can only go up. And
right.
that is a beautiful thing to witness. I've got to watch a handful of people go through that process. I've been through that process myself in many regards, and it's not fun to go through, but on the other end, it's very enlightening. You want to, you find confidence in yourself. You find merit in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That is where you start to find purpose, and that's where you start to find enjoyment in life.
That's right. You hit
Yep.
the nail on the head right there.
Absolutely.
Purpose.
Speaking of
That's it.
enjoyment of life, what are you excited about in this crazy market we have right now? I mean, banks are failing. Chat GBT is trying to, take over the internet. Up is down,
Yeah.
down is up. And, you've been in the
Yeah.
industry for a long time. What's on, like, what are you focusing on now, right? With everything.
You're not going to like my answer. I'm
Please.
focusing on Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Look, I got to tell you, I didn't get it. I've been hearing for 18 months now that AI is going to take over,
Yeah.
and that AI is going to be replacing jobs, and better get with the program. And
Yeah.
I just ignored it. And then a friend of mine introduced me to Chat GPT in a way that I didn't realize. I was actually listening to something that AI had created, and I
Wow.
was like, "What?" I was like, "Wow, that's brilliant." I was, "Wow, man." I told my friend that was really well said, and, and this person's like, "Well, funny, I didn't write it." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's Chat GPT." And that opened up my mind. So here's the deal. I mean, look, there are just certain inevitabilities, and one of the inevitabilities is evolution. So adapt or die,
Yeah.
right? And so in regards to the market, yeah, there's a lot of craziness right now. I'm a little concerned about what's happening with the banks, Credit Suisse, and you know, you know, the banks that are going under, the banks that are being saved, the banks that are being bailed out by the government.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting time. It definitely is. Inflation, yeah, it's an interesting time, and we'll get through it. It's a cycle, but I think there's going to be a lot of dead bodies along the way.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I
It's
think
gonna be a bloody mess, that's for sure.
yeah, I
I
think
agree.
crypto is in for another very interesting downturn. I think that, but ultimately, I think it will prevail. I think certainly, I think it will prevail because I think blockchain, of course, the underlying technology beneath cryptocurrency, that's here to stay.
Yeah.
That's legitimate, and I think that I think that I think that some crypto will survive. I just do. I think the government's going to figure out a way to regulate it. I think they need to figure out a way to regulate it, even though it's designed to be not to be to be deregulated. I think it just has to um, have some level of regulation attached to it. So yeah, I think this year, I think 23 is going to be a year of a lot of destruction, um, a lot of teardown. But what happens after teardown? It's rebuilding,
Yeah.
and so I'm excited about it. I think Chat GPT, just jumping back to
Yeah.
that, is extraordinary. I'm actually using it with a business partner right now create um, to create something that we're working on, and we're capturing language, we're capturing um, ideas and perspectives that exist, but we wouldn't we would find out that these things exist, that these theories exist, but we'd have to do so much research
Right.
on our own. And instead, we can type into, OpenAI. We can go to OpenAI. We can type in, what we're looking for, and it in less than 30 seconds, it doesn't just come back with the answer. It comes back with the answer in an articulate way that is extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it. I really am excited about it. And yeah, I'm, nothing is going to replace human beings in everything,
No.
but AI is going to come real close to replacing. It's efficient, and business
Absolutely.
it runs on efficiencies.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think a really interesting conversation I listened to a couple of years ago on impact theory. I don't know if you've listened to Tom Bilyeu very much, but he had a
oh,
billionaire on his show that this was a couple of years ago that was using his billions to advocate for the human population to regulate AI, because basically what they were
cool.
saying was is they could take your typing skills and they could take
Mm-hmm.
your social media and your content, put it all together and build a profile on you, and then
Yep.
they could actually sell your personality in AI for $50,000 one time for a carbon copy. And now they've got a secretary, they've got a coordinator, they've got somebody, whatever they're trying to fulfill in that company, they've just literally cloned you.
Yes,
And
that's crazy.
that's where it's going to go. And that reminds
Wow.
me of a concept called the net effect. I don't know if you remember learning about. There was a book. I don't remember what book it's in, but it's called the net effect. The Polynesian islands when the French and the Spanish and they were all just in this massive conquering stage of expansion and growth of these big giant countries. What they were doing was they were going to these little islands and finding indigenous people, and they were teaching them how to cast a net versus spearfish. Well, the amount of
Mm,
fish you can catch in a net supersedes what a group of men could do with spears. And so one or two guys
right.
could go out and throw a net, feed the whole village. It took all of the hunters and gatherers away. And so what happened was they had to
Mm,
evolve. And that's why their
right.
societies had such a hard time getting past the new technology, because one or two people now had the whole entire industry of taking care of fish, getting fish for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. So that's what AI means to me. And so you've got to figure out how to produce the net now. You've got to figure out how to
Right.
produce a component of what AI is doing, right? And so it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
that's something that you guys are doing is you're trying to create the net rather than the people. And I think that's a really smart way to go.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I can't. Unfortunately, I believe me. I would love to talk
No,
about
it's all good.
what this new business is,
Yeah.
and eventually, soon enough, I will. But what's really cool about the AI in the way that we're using it is that it's helping us work more efficiently and articulate the problem that we are solving with our business. So
Yeah.
business is solving problems. We've created a solution for something,
That's awesome.
and to be able to articulate the problem and the solution and the path to and the creative path to the solution,
Right.
or that is the solution, is extraordinary. And so I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of it, of AI, and what for the way we're using it. What you just described, though, about effectively almost like cloning a personality, cloning a way, cloning someone's, the way in which they do something. Yeah, that's a
Scary.
little that's a little disturbing.
Yeah.
It is. It's a little disturbing. And I know there's people using it on social media right now that I think is not particularly cool. They're basically stealing people's content.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's not, I think that's pathetic. Um, I think it's unoriginal,
Yeah.
and that bothers me because I think originality is important. Um, but is that gonna, nobody gives a rip about the fact that I don't like it. They're going to
Right.
keep doing it because it makes them money, and that's, it helps them
Mm-hmm.
win. So again, it's adapt or die. It's
Yeah.
survival of the fittest. It's evolution. So my advice is, I'm not just saying like this to you, I'm saying this to me, to everybody. It's
Yeah.
like, get with the program, because you cannot like something, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean it ain't going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Zero doubt. It is
100%.
an inevitability. AI is full-fledged, full on, here to stay, and it's far more advanced than any of us already realize. I mean, it's obviously what we're being shown is where the technology actually was 4 months ago or six
Mm-hmm.
months ago.
Yeah.
What they're already working on is probably,
Because
I'm
they
not
just
trying to be like a
released fourth
conspiracy
generation,
theorist, but
right? I think fourth generation
yeah.
just came
So
out
yeah,
like
yeah,
last week or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's, yeah. The only reason they're not releasing the next gen is because they don't have the marketing. They don't have all the marketing down yet, and it's easier to, to make money with
Mm-hmm.
what they currently have. So
Yeah.
in any event, I have a friend who's involved in tech, and what what they're working on is
Leaps and bounds.
it's just, it's incredible. Yeah. So anyway, we got to get with the program.
I love it. And I think that's a great it's a great topic to talk about because you know a lot of people, okay, so we have experience in multiple different businesses, but there's networking that happens
Mhm.
in those businesses. You get around certain people,
Right.
and had you have just kept on a mediocre path, or not gone after your goals and dreams, you may not have gotten into the room where you're starting to create a company where you are now using AI to actually build a company. Think about that for a second. Like, everything was built by design to get you to this point right now in your life. And so somebody's just hearing about AI right now, possibly listening to this podcast, or they're actually going to consider it because of what you just said. But you've been working on it for months, and you're ahead of the game because of your networking, because of what you've done in your life has put you in the right rooms. So, guys, everything
Mm-hmm.
that you do matters, even if it's day one of starting your own business or creating your own idea.
Mm.
That networking along the way will put the right people in your life to get you where you need to go. You won't get left behind if you do it.
Absolutely. 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 And it's, when is now the best time to get started? We've all heard that,
Yeah.
when is now the best time to get started? Well, there's a lot of truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that it's like, the notion of creating wealth is that there's this false idea that one has to be rich in order to start creating wealth.
Ooh.
That's a fallacy. Start today. Start right now. Start building wealth now. Whatever phase of your life that you're
Yeah.
in, start now. And don't buy into this notion of, well, I have to have something before I get started.
Right.
and literally you can start investing with $25 a month. Literally, you can start saving with $25 a month. Like, there's so many different things, but you've got to start. And uh, I mean, imagine I'm 53 years old, okay, and trust me, I look back at my life going, wow, if I had just started saving, or if I had just started, really, it's not saving, it's investing. If I just started investing when I was 19, if I had just started putting money away when I was 18, just $25 a week,
Right.
like, oh my God, imagine,
Yeah.
just compound interest, man. It is not a joke. It's the most powerful force on planet Earth. It's extraordinary. So start today.
Yeah.
That's the message. And I'm pardon me, I kind of forgot how we got on this, but I can just tell you that, for anybody that's looking at, well, how do I invest and what do I do? Pick up a book and start reading. It doesn't have to be a book written by a Harvard, this, that, and the other, or some world-renowned
Yeah.
economist. There's a lot of information out there that can help you learn how money works, and what to do today to start simply,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the action of getting started that creates the change, and it's the action of being consistent that creates that compound effect
Yeah.
with everything, not just with money or investing, but personal development, all the things that we've been talking
Yeah.
about. So
And so, on that regard, what do you think
mhm.
stifles people from getting started? Do you think it's, we had mentioned earlier the imposter syndrome, worthiness. Am I worthy to even save, or is it cynicism?
Yeah.
Is it how you were raised? Like for instance, the old phrase, money doesn't grow on trees. It even though that seems like a very benign statement now, if that is ingrained in your mindset, you're going to be cynical towards money
Yeah.
or starting, right?
Yeah.
What do you think it is? Do you think
Right.
it's the imposter? Do you think it's the cynicism, the upbringing?
That's a really good question. And I assure you, I've dove into that myself, in regards to myself. And for sure, some of it is about how I was raised, what I was taught, what I wasn't taught. But at the end of the day, uh, am I going to blame others, or I'm just going to take response? Am I going to blame my parents for not teaching me about this,
Right.
that, and the other? Or am I going to take responsibility and take ownership of my own life and my own mind and my own decisions and start learning and,
Yeah.
and educating myself? So I don't know what the genesis is, Skylar. It's more than likely it's learned or unlearned behavior. Everything is learned, right? It's learned
Right.
behavior. um, so not everything is learned, but in what regards what
Yeah.
we're talking about, um, but I it's for sure the desire to look good, the desire to look rich rather than actually be rich
That's it.
is a desire that a
Yeah.
lot of people
That right
have.
there.
And yeah, and it's not that I desire to look rich instead of being rich. It's not no one's consciously being like, I just want to look rich. I don't want to be rich. I want to look rich. No, they're just choosing to put whatever money they have into looking rich instead of delaying the gratification and investing so that one day they actually are rich.
Mm.
Delayed gratification is something that we have to learn. And I'm talking to me just as much as I'm talking to everybody else. So I'm not
Bring it.
casting stones or pointing fingers. It's like delayed gratification, man. It's like it just put the money, invest the money, invest, 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 invest. And what you're doing is investing in your future, and you're investing in yourself in for the future. Pay now or pay later. Either way, you're going to pay. So decide which cost would you rather endure?
Yeah.
The pain, the cost of sacrificing now and not looking cool to your friends and not looking cool on social media, which drives me insane. Can someone please just be effing real on social media? And there
Yes.
are a lot of people that are, and there's a boatload of people that are not.
Yes.
You know, it's the image, the image, the image. I got to project an image. I got to project an image. Yeah, but there's so many people perpetuating a fake. It's not reality. They're perpetuating a fake perception that is teaching other people or inspiring other people to follow that path. And that path is garbage. That path is not real. That path is fake. And it's unfortunate because it's keeping a lot of people stuck in lack and limitation and not having something that's truly solid. It's just it's eggshell,
Yes.
it's eggshell wealth, it's eggshell riches. And look, man, I've fallen prey to that. I've made a ton of money and didn't, and went out and bought this and bought that and had this and had that. And I'm like, holy crap, there's nothing in my bank account. And, it's a hard lesson to learn, and it's a valuable lesson to learn. So anyway, I kind of went off on that, but I think that it comes back to, again, like, for real, ask the question. Anybody listen to this? Ask the question: would you rather appear rich or be rich? Because the people that I know billionaires. Like, I'm full on friends with billionaires. I'm friends with people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I promise you, almost all of them are not on social. In fact, none of them are on social media flaunting it. None of them.
Right.
If anything, they're attempting to keep a low profile. I have friends that are worth, I have one friend that is worth an obscene amount of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they drive a Ford. Mm-hmm. Do they have exotic cars? Oh, yeah. But you know what's one they drive on a consistent basis? A Ford SUV. I freaking love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, so it doesn't mean you can't enjoy the nice things and drive a Porsche, drive whatever, great. But let that not define you. And certainly don't fall prey to, I look so cool, but here's reality. Looking cool is one thing. Want to know what being cool is, in my opinion, is having true wealth and having the security for your family. Like, to me, that's cool.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. No, you just pointed out the marketing machine that the big world wants you to fall into. And once you break out of that and you red pill, you realize, putting food on the table and stability and generational wealth supersedes your Louboutins, and
legacy,
100%. Yes. Yeah. Darren Walker, legacy is the new currency. Man, that guy. Yep.
Yeah. He's legit. Let me tell you something. Just going to brag on Darren Walker for a second. Yeah. I mean, he's a guy to, I'm supposed to do this or not, but that's a guy you want to look up and find out what he's all about. He's about, he's about being iconic. He's the real deal. And you know what? I'm going to jump onto that with you. He's changed my life too. Yeah, he is the real deal. And that's what's important in life, is being surrounding ourselves with the right people, and certainly at the right time, but the right people stay with us for forever, if you will. And he's a good egg, man. He is.
Absolutely. Speaking of good eggs, you're a wonderful man and you have given some great information today. Where can people follow you? How can they, stay in touch with you, follow your journey, especially as you're launching this new company and growing what you currently
Yeah.
have?
Oh, thank you. Nowhere. I'm not, I'm not on social media. So I am in truth, ramping up my social media game, so that, we can get more of the, just out there more, and be of service to more people,
Yeah.
and to those who want to hear it. So on social media, just at Martin Ruof, like Instagram, it's at Martin Ruof,
Awesome.
MartinRuof. A lot of people type in ROUF, but it's RUOF.
Yeah.
And then I'm this, logo here. This is Badass Global. It's a company I own. Excuse me, and it's really a lifestyle brand. And we are in the very close to full on launching this to a much higher level. So Badass Global has an Instagram page, but that's about to go down and then come back up as something much better,
Okay.
websites and all that stuff. And yeah, so there's a YouTube channel. All this stuff is I'm trying to be like you, is what I'm trying to do, Skylar. That's my intention.
Let's grow
And
together.
I yeah, and I'm not kidding. Like, I'm you've inspired me,
Thank you.
as you know, to really up my game, and I appreciate the things that you've taught me, are teaching me, and you give quite generously the knowledge that you have and the wisdom that you have. And
Thank
they
you.
say every
Appreciate it.
wisdom has its price, right? So I know you paid a price to learn what you've learned, and some of that price is in real actual dollars, and some of that price is in time and frustration. So I thank you for that, and I appreciate you for that. So
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. I got one last
yeah,
question before we
yeah.
send you off. Are you ready for this one?
Uh-oh. Oh no, I'm scared. I'm nervous now. No, fire away.
Go back to when you first started network marketing, that very first meeting, the thing that set you
Mm.
on the trajectory of changing your life. What would you say to that young man now, knowing that you know what you know?
Ooh, juicy. Oh, wow. I have to be with that question for a moment. There's a few things I would say. One, be true to yourself. Always, always, always trust yourself and to be true to you. There's no need to sell out to someone else's idea of who I am,
Mm.
of who you are. Okay. First and foremost, uh, don't spend, invest. I mean, I burned through a lot of money when I got started. So what I was just ranting about, I lived through. Okay. No need to spend. There's no need to impress anyone. Uh, invest. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. Yeah, it's a dollar earned. Uh, hell, a penny saved
Yeah.
is a penny earned. Okay, it adds up over time. I would say learn, study, read about how money works. Very important.
Yeah.
How money works, and learn from the people that are truly wealthy, not from the people that just talk about it or try to look like they are.
Mm.
Learn from the people that are truly wealthy. And there's more books and podcasts and out there. There's plenty out there. So that's all from a business perspective. That's what I would say to myself. my 20 years ago. And also just on the practical level, I mean, on a deeper level, I would say to myself, every day, do the inner work. And that's what I said, like, be true to yourself, like, but every day do the inner work, focus on the personal development. And it is the most rewarding investment in oneself, far more than virtually anything else. Because you said it earlier, you were not a good person. You weren't being a good person to your wife. You weren't being a good person to others. And that's actually not the way you phrase it, but I'll phrase it
No, I
this way.
get you.
We weren't showing up as the best version of Skylar to your
Yes.
wife. You weren't showing up as the best version of Skylar to your friends and to your coworkers and to people that wanted that from you and deserved that from you. And but then you began the inner journey and doing the inner work, and you show up as the best version of you, and it changes everyone around you. And isn't that what it's all about?
That's what it's
It
about.
certainly is what business is about, but that's what life is about, I believe. And so, yeah, I would say to myself, 20 years ago, getting started in this industry, is every day do the personal development work and just be true to yourself. And in so doing, the impact will be far greater. The positive impact will be far greater than anything, anything you can possibly imagine. So
Thank you.
that's what I would say.
Thank you for that. Because
Thank
somebody on
you.
the other end of this is going to need those words. It's a tough world out there, folks. And you've heard it from us that there's some things you have to spend your time and effort on. And that inner growth is where it's at. Thank you, Martin, so much for your time today. I really appreciate you. I can't wait to do it again. I also can't wait to see what
Yes.
you create in the podcast space as well. So thank you and have a
Well,
great
thank
day.
you. You as well. Thank you so much, Scholar. I really, truly appreciate you.
Appreciate you.